Welcome to Distilled. I'm your host, Brian Johnson, and today I am joined by our frequent Bulldog and ShopHQ guest, Mr. Nathan Cousins.
Hello. Cheers to you.
Today we are drinking the Vesper. Nathan, can you tell us what's in the Vesper?
Gin, vodka, dry vermouth, simple syrup, and a whole lot of love.
Ooh, I'll drink to that. Now, funny thing, because I thought you were a mixologist in a past life.
It's true.
Because you played one on Bulldog one time.
That's also true. And it's kind of the vibe I'm going for.
I think you're nailing it. Would you tell us a story about National Margarita Day?
It was National Margarita Day. Let me set the stage. The shtick was I would mix a bespoke classic margarita. Brian would come up and proceed to slam said margarita and ask for another. So we got through, I forgot the salt, but we made it a bit. Wasn't a big deal, right? And if you know anything about a classic margarita, it's almost all liquor. So Brian slams this huge margarita.
I think you originally thought I was going to slam it. You didn't think I was going to drink the whole thing or something.
Right.
But maybe Mike, our old line producer, Mike Baltz, snuck that in.
And I remember me saying something like, do you want me to make you a dummy? Like a dummy drink, not a real margarita, because I knew this was going to go down fast, and we'd be maybe having another margarita later in the show, possibly. So it happened. Brian slammed the margarita, got most of it down the hatch, some of it down the shirt, and then I think somebody said, "Do we need to do another take?" And I said, "I don't think we should."
And I was like, after we cut, I was like, was that? And you were like, there's a lot of alcohol. I was like, oh boy.
It's a good show that night.
It was a good show.
It's a really good show.
Exceptional. Drank a lot of water after that. Now, Nathan, you grew up in Crosby, Minnesota, a couple hours north of here.
True.
In the Iron Range.
Correct.
Let's get into it.
The Cuyuna Range. Let's go deep right now. As deep as the mine pits of the Cuyuna Range.
Ooh, do tell.
Grew up in a small town adjacent to Crosby called Deerwood, population 580. Was homeschooled. Lived in the woods a lot. Built lots of forts. Did lots of canoeing. We lived on a lake. It was a really great childhood. It was one of those towns where everyone kind of knew everyone, and everyone was all up in each other's business, and it was kind of wonderful. I'm not sure I could ever go back to small town life, but there's something romantic and kind of wonderful about it.
Well, it's interesting because you are the small town boy that ended up in New York City.
True.
Tell us your journey from Crosby to New York. I'm sorry, what's the town?
Deerwood, yeah.
Deerwood to New York City, and that's where you met your wife.
That's true. Yeah, I'll try to make the long story short. Ended up moving to the Twin Cities for school, studied theater, met my wife doing shows. I was a theater student, she was a music student. We met doing musical theater. And started dating junior year, got married right out of college. And then it took another, I think about 6 years before she finally convinced me to move to New York. She'd always wanted to try it out, live the New York life, and she finally dragged me out of Minnesota, kicking and screaming, and I ended up really falling in love with New York. It took a little while, but we were there for about 4 years. We had our first daughter there, moved back when she was about 7 months pregnant with our second daughter, back to Minnesota here, and a month later, we met.
Oh, was that close?
Yeah,
that was going to be my next question, because you're an actor, and it led you to being on television here with us.
It's true, yeah. So acting is what initially drew us out to New York. We wanted to kind of check out the market there, take a sabbatical from Minnesota, and we had no mortgage, no kids, so why not? But we ended up meeting some friends there and getting some other work, and that's a whole other story. But acting and theater was the initial draw, and when we moved back to Minnesota, we picked up doing mainly commercial work here. things shut down shortly after we moved back, so there wasn't a whole lot of live theater going on. But I had this audition from one of my agents at ShopHQ. I had been a guest host on ShopHQ probably maybe 6 years before that, and it was terrifying to me, absolutely terrifying. I kind of did it as a challenge to myself to say, I can do this live television thing. Because I'm not haven't been a big improv guy. I'm much better on script and hiding behind a character. So when I got the audition to come back to Shop, I was like, no way. But I didn't have a job, so I was auditioning and doing everything I possibly could to find work. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's give it a shot. Met Blair. I think you were there. And I don't know, the rest is history, I guess.
And we're all the better for it. Nathan Cousins, rapid fire questions.
I'm ready.
How do you take your coffee?
Straight black.
Favorite place besides home?
Scotland?
Where?
Scotland?
Oh, that's a surprising answer. If you were a cocktail, what would you be?
Old fashioned.
Favorite guilty pleasure food?
Oh, corn dog, maybe. Deep fried pickles? Fair food.
Great.
That's why it's a guilty pleasure. Is there such thing as a guilty pleasure? More on this later. Scotland. I've been there a couple times and met some really wonderful people there.
All right.
It's kind of a magical place.
Agreed. Movie you always stop when you're channel flipping, you'll stop on?
The Big Lebowski.
Nice.
Every time.
Now you're a collector. Collections?
Antique thermoses, old wooden baseball bats, watches. There's old tobacco pipes.
Interesting. Wow.
Pocket knives.
Oh, and pocket knives. Ooh, you have to show me some of those.
We'll bring them by sometime.
Well, all right. I am your host, Brian Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Nathan Cousins. It's always a pleasure, and this has been Distilled.
You're here?
Cheers.
Cheers.